This game is so hard, it's ridiculous. It's actually a bit of a paradox. Golf is so hard that you have to play it correctly, and then once you're playing it correctly for your skill level, it's just not that hard because it's so hard. Like once you understand that, which I get that most people are like, that makes absolutely no sense. It just, you have to play with proper strategy.
Welcome to The Golf Parent, where you get access to the best minds in junior golf. Today's guest is someone I've admired for years, and I'm now lucky enough to call him a friend, Scott Fawcett, the genius creator and mastermind behind Decade Golf, the system that's completely transformed the way that elite golfers manage a golf course. Scott went from a pro golfer to a data-obsessed strategist to one of the most influential minds in all of modern golf. And in this conversation, we get into everything. How golfers should actually pick targets, why bogey avoidance is more important than pin hunting, the mindset traps that juniors fall into, and the biggest myths around putting, aiming, and playing aggressive. We also dive into course management for juniors, why expectations destroy confidence, the psychology behind great decision making, the future of golf in a data-driven world, and how parents can support, not sabotage, their junior golfers' growth. And a quick heads up, Scott's been incredibly generous to our community. He's giving Golf Parent listeners an exclusive 30% off the entire Decade Golf system. Just use Golf Parent, all one word, all caps, to get 30% off and finally understand how elite players think their way around the course. All right, let's get into it. Here is my conversation with my friend and one of the sharpest minds in the game, Scott Fawcett. Scott Fawcett is joining the podcast. Scott, thanks so much for joining me. Welcome.
Absolutely. I love always doing these. So far with our little preamble, I think you seem like a really good thinker. I'm interested to see what you come up with for some questions.
Well, there's no shortage of questions because you are a prolific thinker. I mean, I don't know if we're quite there yet to say that you've changed the game like irreversibly, but I think you kind of have. Yeah, okay, so let's just start there. Let's start there. So, I mean, anybody listening to this podcast probably knows you. You're prolific on social media. You're always out there. You're educating people and really kind of sharing just a different way of thinking your way through, the golf game. I'm kind of curious. Will Zalatoris and you that's kind of when you started and you came up with the system. I'm kind of curious, do you remember that moment when you were working with Will and you're just like, wait a second, there's maybe something's not right here. I think I got an idea. Like what was that genesis moment for you?
It's really interesting because Will I've known since he was like 8 or 9 when he moved to Dallas. But the interesting part about it is I started an electricity company when I quit playing professional golf in 2002. And his dad, when they got transferred from San Francisco to Dallas, he was coming to be the asset manager of the Galleria Mall, which I sold electricity to. And so he called me in, hey, I'm the new asset manager. And I go in there and like, I'm getting fired. I mean, I've got my own guys and we're going to switch things up here. And I come walking in and I've got on a Bent Tree Country Club logo shirt. And he's like, are you a member of Bent Tree? And I'm like, I'm the club champion. Like, I may as well try. And he's like, oh, wow. I've got a 9-year-old son that just, you won't believe, he swings so good. He's just a great little player. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. And I swear to God, his swing looked identical at 9 as it does today. It was just a lot smaller little person. And so I really did. I had Corn Ferry status when he was probably, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, something like that. And so, I'm out there playing, and again, I'm like 36 or 7 at the time, and I'm out there playing, full-time professional golf, and he's the little kid tagging along with me. So, he was just the kid that I just kind of played golf with because he was out there every day. And it really was cool because he qualified for the U.S. Junior 12, 13, and 14 and, did well just getting in the thing. But he was always really frustrated, like with his results. And so I was trying to teach him course management and mindset and stuff, but it was honestly just kind of my opinion at that point. And then once the strokes gain statistics started coming out, it was when I created air quotes decade. So the aha moment was literally whenever I finally did that. But I had a cortisone shot on my right elbow the 2 weeks before the Texas Amateur in 2014. And that didn't go well. The guy paralyzed my arm for a couple of days. Obviously it came back. Yay.
Yeah.
But I called Will and I'm like, dude, let me explain to you what I've been working on here. Like I had told him what I was working on, but let me really explain it to you. And then if you want, I'll caddy for you, in 2 weeks. And he was like, absolutely, of course. And in the first round, he hit every single shot exactly where I told him to, which was never the flag. And he shot like 67 and had the lead in the first round. But I saw driving home after that round, I was like, I'm pretty sure that kid would have shot lower if I wasn't there, because he hit every single shot exactly where I told him to. Now, what I will say in hindsight, especially with my understanding of the distance control portion of it, while yes, directionally it was where I told him to, I highly doubt it was actually pin high every single time. So he might have missed a few more greens, long and short or whatever. So I actually, in hindsight, don't think he would have shot lower. But the second round, he came out and he was nervous. It was his first time leading any sort of a real golf tournament, more than a high school golf tournament. And he was freaking out and he shot 70. And driving home that day, I was like, that kid would have shot 78 for sure if I wasn't there. And so that was the aha moment of, this is something. And it's crazy. Steve Jobs says you can only connect the dots looking backwards. And it really is amazing how many, if I took a left turn here instead of a right turn in life, just binary decisions like just completely change your life. And, at the time when the guy paralyzed my arm, I was so mad because I was like, I've been working on this project for 6 months, and I can't believe I don't get to use it. There's no doubt in my mind through 6 holes, if I were playing, I would have thought this is so stupid and literally thrown it in the trash and just not thought twice about it and not known what I missed out on. Because I will say, with all due arrogance, I do agree with you that this has completely changed the game. Somebody would have come along eventually and done something, I think, but everyone's so focused with the strokes gain statistics on stats and how can we improve. And I think it's my background as a failed playing professional, basically, that was like, man, I traveled with Chad Campbell and Chris Riley in my 20s on the Hooters tour, and, two future Ryder Cup or PGA Tour winning guys. And I was just always like, I feel like I'm as good as these dudes. And while I won a couple times, I was never anywhere close to the results they were having. And I just couldn't figure out what it possibly was. And it never dawned on me. They just understood how to play the game more just by having a ton more experience. I didn't really specialize in golf until I got to college. And so really it is that looking back and connecting the dots, that aha moment is Will shooting a round of golf that there's no way it should have been that number whatsoever. And then coupled with my own failings as a player, that just really, I think, allows me to see the game differently than even, the former playing professionals, former PGA Tour winner, announcers that have to argue with all the time. They've got all this bias. Well, this is how I did it. And it's like, maybe you did it that way, but you probably don't even actually know what you did. And so using data to just illuminate, there's no doubt in my mind there are kids in high school that understand the game better than quite a few of the PGA Tour winning announcers on TV do. I mean, there's just no doubt
I
in my
love
mind
it.
about that now.
I love the hot take. Okay, so let's give the listeners then some examples. So, like, what are maybe 3 examples that are just either counterintuitive or complete myths that just through the data and through your experience were just proving completely false? Hey, golf parents, quick pause here. If you're enjoying this conversation and getting value from it, do me a quick favor. Hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you're listening. It helps us reach more parents who are on the same journey as you, raising the next generation of great golfers. All right, that's it. And now back to the show.
That's a perfect question, because I literally, just for fun, I posted on Instagram. Here's hot takes. If you don't leave any putts short, you suck at putting, and if you've actually eliminated one side of the golf course, you suck at golf. Those are the 2 biggest incorrect ideas. Never up, never in. You have a shot pattern in golf, like with your 7-iron, that looks like a shotgun blast. But you also have one with your putter. And now it's not really circular or an oval. It's your directional control. I don't care how good or bad you are at golf or putting. Your directional control is always better than your distance control. So it really starts to become like more like a rectangle, to be perfectly honest, of, we leave from 20 feet. If we're trying to roll it to a 20-foot spot, we might have a 5-foot window of potential speed outcomes. And so where Pell said, you want to be hitting every putt 17 inches past the hole, that's correct, I guess, if you can control your speed to the inch, which I still would argue would be more like 7 or 8 inches. But, he was only optimizing for make rates. And so what we're really optimizing for in golf is strokes to hole out rates. And then the other one, again, would just be the idea of eliminating one side of the course. If you really dig into what most great players like a David Duval, when they say I've eliminated the left side of the course, what they're really saying is I've eliminated the double cross. And the double cross is by far the biggest killer in golf. It makes shot patterns exponentially bigger. It's just death. Every time that you are trying to hit a draw and you hit a fade, you have started it right and you've hit a block cut when you were intending on it turning left. And that's why I argue so heavily for, especially with the driver, shaping it one direction. Because once you're good at doing that, you really do eliminate like the vast majority of your outlier shots. If the ball's curving the direction you intended it to, you have a huge margin of error to work with. And what would be the other one? I'm going to try to come up with three because those two are just so obvious. And I mean, those two just are so obvious. I can't even come up with a third immediately, to be perfectly honest.
What about aiming? I mean, you're often quoted saying like never aim at the pin, like ever.
It's
Is
not
there
never,
something?
but it's rare.
But rare, yeah, sure, rare. Um, is it something to do with, the approach shots on the green that, I mean, should we just be aiming for the center of the green? Would that statistically work out better for us than trying to pick the right spot for the average, let's just say junior?
This is the challenge in golf. Is it is quite literally people ask, if there's one criticism I get that really frustrates me, it's that I've made all this more complicated than it has to be. And
Hmm,
I'm like, well, okay, let's say that if I just tell you, hey, you know what, I was 87 yards, should I aim at the middle of the green? Like, probably not. You should probably be hitting it at the flag, most likely. But if the flag is 3 yards from the left edge and there's a lake right off the left edge, then yeah, you should probably aiming it 2 or 3 yards right of the flag. But let's get extreme now and say number 18 at St. Andrews, the green is 52 yards wide. The hole's only 364. I mean, the middle of the green there is completely different idea than the middle of the green on number 10 at Pebble Beach, where the green is only 17 yards wide and the hole's 500 yards long. And so
fair.
there's really not generic advice. So I mean, what decade is, obviously, we're going to jump right into it. Like, how long is the shot? What are the surrounding hazards? What are the weather and the course conditions? Like, it's just a very simple process to run where you're not going to forget, oh, yeah, it was this, or oh, yeah, I forgot that. Or it's just golf really is just different than any other sport. And that's, people always do like, that's why we love it. No, the reason we love it is because it's the only sport that you can actually play until you're 60. I mean, you can play tennis, but you're probably going to blow your knees out. You can play basketball, but you're probably going to tear an ACL or something. It's really the only sport that is somewhat ubiquitous across all income levels, across all demographics. Lots and lots of people play golf, and it's mainly because it's one of the few you can actually play for your entire life. And so it's just a very difficult game to learn to play correctly.
Okay, so it is difficult, and that's why things like Decade kind of come in. And yes, I guess your critics are saying that you're overcomplicating it, but let's explain it. So you go on TrackMan, you hit a bunch of shots, you upload that data, then it gets super transposed over
No, you don't need to do
GPS or
anything like that. I did all that work for you.
okay,
What decade is, so let's say that you're a scratch or better player, which is obviously plus handed. We're talking about the upper echelon. I give you this, what we call a baseline number, which is just 5% of the length of the shot. And again, this is based on 20 million shots from ShotLink. I've then been able to redo it based off of my shot patterns, off of tour players, TrackMan data. Like, I've been able to confirm this thing a million times, a million different ways. And so we start with the most important thing with your original target selection is how long is the shot. Our target is different if we're 100 yards versus 200 yards. So most greens on average are about 20, 22 yards wide. Most people think in greens as depths. I actually think more in width. And so if we've got a 22-yard wide green and we're 200 yards from the hole, yeah, we should probably be aiming at the dead center of that green, because 5% of that shot is 10. So sorry, I mean, I know this so well that I've probably glossed over it too much. We want to take that 5% number, and that's how far we're aiming from any edge of the green for starters. So if the green is literally 20 yards wide and you are 200 yards, I would want you aiming 10 yards from any edge. Well, if it's 10 yards, would be the dead center of that green.
gotcha.
Then if we're only 100 yards, 5% of that number is 5. So if the pin were 5 yards from the left edge, we would be aiming directly at it. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'd be aiming directly at the flag. But once you get out to a green that's, let's call it narrow, and it's only 14 or 16 yards wide, which is a really, really narrow green, again, then you would be aiming from almost any distance at the dead center of the green. But once we now get out there again to that St. Andrews green, those massive, the Scottish greens, you're almost never aiming at the dead center of the green unless the pin's actually right there. Again, it's just a really difficult It's a really difficult question to answer succinctly.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so after we've started with that 5% number, that's for scratch and better. And then in the app, I teach you these different modifiers. So if you're a single digit handicap, we're going to add 1 or 2 yards to that 5% number. I don't really think that people who are shooting over 82 or 3, they don't really need to learn the entire system. They need to learn the ideas, and then as they get better, they will start to learn the entire system. So, what's going to help my putting get better? Well, working on your speed way more than working on your line. What's going to help you through drive or shaping one way? So the guys that are shooting in the 80s, they need to understand that information. And as they morph into the 70s, then they start learning, air quotes, all of decade.
So then for the junior golfers out there, how do we balance the swing mechanics and what they're learning with that while also understanding, the course strategy? Like what would be the balance? What would be the focus? Let's just say it's a really good 12, 14-year-old junior golfer. What should be their focus?
And this actually, I've never really had the question phrased that way, the balance. The great thing about decade, and honestly what I believe with course management, that should be work that's done away from the golf course. I never would have thought to host an indoor seminar to teach course management. Like, how are we possibly going to do that? But in 2014, again, when I caddied for Zalatoris when he won the Texas Am and US Junior, then at the US Amateur that summer, Jason Enlow, who was the head coach at SMU at the time, he came up to me. He's like, I feel like you're doing something with strategy and mindset with Will. I got a player named Bryson DeChambeau who just fires at every single flag. I can't get him to not. He just thinks if it's his week, it's his week, it's going to work out. Is there any way you could teach this to him? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure I could. I've never really thought about it, but pretty sure I could. He goes, okay, cool. Can you put it together in an indoor seminar? And I was like, I don't think so, but why? And he's like, well, if the NCAA would consider you a third paid coach if we went outside, so we've got to do it indoors. So I literally made the decade seminar for Bryson DeChambeau. And as we were in there doing it, I was like, this is the way to do this. No one has any emotional outcome to their shots. Nobody's embarrassed they just topped it. Nobody's embarrassed they just three putted from 15 feet. This guy's not saying, oh my God, I hope Scott Fawcett, Will Zalatoris' coach, thinks I've got a good swing. Like, I don't care. That's not what we're here for. And you can get such bad data in short, in 9 holes. If the pin is 5 yards from the left and some kid's got a 7-iron from 170, and I tell him to aim it 5 yards right of that flag, and then he misses it 5 yards right of that target, well, now he's 30 feet and he might three putt that. And he's going to say, see, if I'd been aiming that at the flag, I'd only had 15 feet. What I would say is, well, that was just unfortunate. You hit it on the right side of your shot pattern. If you actually had pulled it 5 yards, you would be a foot. And that's understanding that shotgun blast of a shot pattern. And so just really understanding that this game needs to be taught indoors, the scoring side of it, where there's no emotional attachment to outcome. That's to me the most important thing. I'm trying to figure out how I started on that. What did you say exactly there before?
Well, we're balancing swing mechanics and we're balancing, course strategy, and that's fascinating. I didn't realize that you actually crystallized it for Bryson, which is awesome. How did he take that? First of all, did he take to it right away? I'm assuming it's all data. So
I still have it in the slide. So in the very first slide where I'm explaining that 5% number, I
yeah,
literally in the middle of the seminar had to put a dot 1 yard on the green away from a water hazard. And I was like, okay, if we were 150 yards and the pin was 1 yard from the water, would you aim it a little bit long and right of it? And he's like, well, obviously. I'm like, can you appreciate that maybe even if it's 7 yards away from it, you might still need to give it another couple yards? It took saying something that elementary, in my opinion, to get Bryson's light bulb to go off. And that's at the time he was ranked 67th in the world. He'd already won either the Trans-Miss or the Southern Am. Like, he was a great player, but his results were so erratic and all over the place. It was honestly, to be perfectly honest, comical. And in under 4 months from there, he's won the NCAA's and US Amateur. My canned joke is, if you feel like you should have shot lower every time you play, you're either not as good as you think you are, or you made mental and strategic mistakes. And so, circling back to your prior question, what's the split? Well, if you putt bad, you're going to go practice your putting for countless hours. Everybody thinks they should have shot lower every single time they play, but we don't have dedicated time to course management. I mean, and even if you do, let's say you're going out with your instructor who is some sort of a mini tour misfit like I was, there's a better than 50% chance they're actually just giving you bad information. I mean, what do they know? I mean, it really is. I understand basketball. I think Steph Curry, if I gave him a basketball lesson, be like, "What are you talking about, dude? You have no idea." It would sound good to the layperson, and to a parent just listening, be like, "Oh, this guy really knows what he's talking about." Like, no, he doesn't at all. And I hate saying it that way, but it really is just the truth.
Okay, so I'm curious then. So if you had an opportunity to go back and coach 7-year-old Scott Fawcett, how would you be bringing him up to understand how to be the absolute best golfer that he could be? Would it be a mix of classroom sessions of going through strategy? What sort of dedication to like what have you learned in all your journey that you wish you would have learned at 7?
I don't know about at 7, but I believe that from 7 to 12, I mean, I've got a 12-year-old daughter. I think of her being much younger than that. She wouldn't really, I think the parents need to learn everything and then judge how they bring the kid along with it. Hopefully they can find, we've just launched a certified program for Decade. Hopefully
Nice.
we'll have a nice amount of certified instructors around the country, around the world, in short order. I would highly suggest getting on webinars and working one-on-one with them, because what we want to be doing in advance is showing them what to look for in a tournament coming up and what did you just do wrong back there. So 7 to 12-year-old Scott, I'd be like, hey buddy, just keep swinging, work on your mechanics, and all kind of piecemeal stuff to you. But then starting at 12, 13, if they're shooting in the 70s, they're ready to start digging it. They've shown initiative to get that good that young. And so this is not your typical kid who you can't really trust to be that interested in it. They are enjoying this individual sport to get that good that quick. And I do believe that for the most part, that kind of personality is going to take to, I mean, they're just golf nerds like we all, not you didn't start playing until you were later, but all us young kids, you just turn into a golf nerd and you're all in. And those kids just set them down then and start playing videos. And I think it's hilarious because it's literally just me. I don't know what I'm doing, just voicing over PowerPoints and creating videos. Like the production quality is terrible, but the information, I get nothing. But everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I mean, I get it. The production's bad, but the
Yeah,
information is
information
golden."
stands on its own. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and so if you're the kind of, that's my also little joke is if buying a stats and strategy app for golf even remotely sounds like a good idea to you, you're gonna love it. If it sounds like torture, you're probably gonna hate it. Like it's pretty self-selecting at the end of the day.
That's a great way of saying it. Yeah. If you're into that, okay. No, it
Yeah,
makes
if
sense.
that sounds like even a remotely decent idea.
Yeah, you're gonna love it. Okay, so 12 then okay, so let's say now Scott's getting serious around 14, 16-ish. Um, like, what do you wish that you would have learned around those years that you think that maybe would have served you? Like, that you know now that you wish you would have learned back then?
Well, I wish I would have been able to just take basically all of the books that are sitting behind you and compile them down into cliff notes and then apply them to golf. And that's essentially what I've tried to do is, I was a total hothead lunatic all the way through the age of 30 when I finally quit playing professional golf. I mean, I was just picture whoever is the biggest hothead you can imagine. I was worse than that person by a mile. Like it's pretty interesting looking back at it because it's like you're not actually incapable of not being mad. It's a show for everybody else that you're better than this. Like I'm better than this. Look, I'm really mad right now because this is unacceptable to me. Like it literally is a show for everyone else. It's not like you're incapable of controlling yourself from throwing a golf club or screaming cuss words. It is purely a show, and everyone else is hoping you played worse. So you're literally doing it in front of people that are a captive audience rooting against you. I mean, for the
And
most
that's
part.
interesting. So in a way, you're basically showing people that you actually care, that this actually matters to you, and that's why you're throwing that the anger tantrum.
And that you're better than that. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure everyone knows that, I'm shooting 78 here today. This is unacceptable to me. I'm a much better player than this. And, so what the first thing young Scott need to know is like, hey, dude, you don't have to get mad. Like, take a bunch of those books back there, Mindset and The Power of Habit. And I mean, I can just count them off behind you. They're all great. And just understand you don't need to act that way. Because if you act that way, like, hey, you're just going to, this game is so hard, it's ridiculous. It's actually a bit of a paradox. Golf is so hard that you have to play it correctly, and then once you're playing it correctly for your skill level, it's just not that hard. Because it's so hard. Like once you understand that, which I get that most people are like, that makes absolutely no sense. It just, you have to play with proper strategy. And once you're playing with proper strategy, A green, I mean, some of the numbers are comical. I'm pretty sure the numbers from 150 yards, a tour player has a better chance of hitting it outside 40 feet than inside 10 feet. I mean, so if you
Huh.
now just start thinking everything in life is normal distribution curves. And so just start throwing normal distribution curves from the hole out to 60 feet. And the majority of it is going to be between 10 and 40 feet, but there's going to be a longer tail outside of 40 than inside of 10. And just there's certain numbers like that where you just can't.
Give me some more of those, Scott, because that's fascinating, and I know people love that. What else do you have that just blows your mind when you actually see a stat where we think, like you always see, like as an amateur, we miss a 6 foot putt and we get angry, like, oh, I should have made that, but should we? Like, really, is that? So, what other stats do you love to throw out there?
I think 165 yards in the fairway is where the average par on PGA Tour. Like from 165 hit in the fairways, it's not hard to hit the green on at a tour level. Sure, if the
Mm.
green is narrow, but most greens again are 20, 22, 23 yards wide. It's just not that hard to hit the green. And then once you're really good at two putting from 20 to 40 feet, averaging less than three from 165 is not hard to do. And again, I'm literally talking about the best players in the world here, so take all of this with a grain of salt. 100 yards, they average 200ths of a shot over par. So, like, if you put them in the rough at 100 yards, they're averaging over par from there. 8 feet is 50-50. 32 feet on a make rate from a putt. 32 feet is where they average two putts to hole out. 100 yards in the fairway is 2.8. Like, there's just some numbers.
2.8, what?
2.8
Like
strokes to
below
hole.
3?
Yeah, I mean, so if I put a tour player, an average tour player in the fairway at 100 yards and they hit 100 shots, they should average roughly 2.8 to hole out. It's not 2.5 or some crazy number. They're averaging birdie a little bit over 20% of the time, and they're making a couple of bogeys here and there. It's just some of those numbers. It's just the guy is finishing first to fifth place on the PGA Tour, average making one bogey per day inside of 150 yards. I mean, inside 150, making a bogey every single day, you can't make enough birdies to offset those little slip ups. It's just literally not possible.
So, okay.
Mark Brody's book, Every Shot Counts, is worth reading. Again, if this conversation, if you've made it this far now, just only 25 minutes in, Mark Brody's book is just a must read to understand strokes gained and how it all works.
100%. Okay, so what would you suggest that we say to help maybe our juniors understand that one, they have to care, and that they should think that they have that kind of tiger mindset, that they tiger, not necessarily Tiger Woods, but just that tiger mindset that they should be able to make the shot. But it's also okay if they don't. Like, how do we balance that where we want them to be dialed in and focused and visualizing and making sure that every single time that they're really trying to make that, whatever it might be, the 30-foot putt or whatever, but then also letting out the pressure a little bit to be like, it's okay, even the tours miss from that area. Like, how do we
Well, that's
balance
where I
that?
think that having a realistic set of expectations is. So if you told me, we're going to try to make this 30 footer, I'd be like, well, you're not going to be very good at that 30 footer then, because you're not going to leave enough short. From 30 feet, you should leave half of your putts short, because what we're doing from 30 feet, especially in junior golf, we're not optimizing make rates. We're optimizing how many times can I two putt this. And in order to do that, we need to optimize the length of our second putt, and we accomplish that by leaving half of our putts short. So we want to blanket that hole literally half long and half short. So if this is the hole, if I this will be a little bit tough, but if I've got from 30 feet, I'm going to have probably a 10 for a junior golfer, a 10 foot. So this right here is 10 feet. If I only leave a third short, well, I'm going to have some putts from 7, 8, 9 feet coming back. But if I leave half of them short, I'm going to have 5 feet or less every single time, with a whole bunch. The middle of that distribution curve is going to be inside of 3 feet, which is basically a tap in. So I think that we
Let
do
me see if
this
I
by.
understand that, Scott. Let me see if I can unpack that. I want to make sure that I get that. So, if from 30 feet, you are suggesting that if we're aiming for the hole and we have a normal dispersion ratio, we're going to leave five, or half of them are going to be, let's just say, 5 feet past the hole. 5 of them are going to be 5 feet before the hole, then obviously left or right as well. And that is a very kind of makeable, I guess, circumference to be making those second putts. What's the other way that maybe historically was taught, or maybe is a misconception of what people are doing on those 30-foot putts?
Well, now let's take that down to 16 to 20 feet. Okay. So let's use a bucket of 16 to 20 feet. That is a putt you're going to be standing over and think, I've got a really good chance of making this. I mean, and you don't, first of all, but it's certainly more makeable than a 30 footer. But what we definitely don't want to do from 18 feet is three putt it. I guarantee you your shot pattern is at least 5 feet deep from, 18 or 20 feet as a junior golfer, at least, probably significantly more than that. And so if you think about, again, a normal distribution curve of 5 feet, if I don't leave any short, I'm going to have 5-footers coming back, which I'm going to miss those putts. And so I'm going to three putt for sure from 18 feet if I don't leave any short. But almost as important, if you think of the biggest part of that distribution curve is now centered 2.5 feet past the hole. I'm going to hit the hole a bunch and have lip outs and everything because the ball's just carrying too much speed. But if I take that same 5-foot window and I leave 25% short, sure, this putt a foot and a half short never had a chance to go in, but the putt that went 5 feet by, it had so much speed, it had no chance of going in either. Just because a putt got to the hole does not mean it actually had a chance to go in. Then that's the critical thing for people to understand in this whole argument that I get into repeatedly, especially with a guy like Brad Faxon, who probably one of the best 10 putters that's ever walked the planet. And he said on a podcast one time, when I was putting my best, I know whenever I missed a putt, I always had to mark the comebacker because it was going by with enough speed that it was going to be 3 or 4 feet past the hole. And it's like, that's not true. That's just literally, there's no chance that's true because you would never make anything. And so he and I kind of got in a little argument about it one day on Twitter. And so I just said, I'll go get him the data, got the shot link data. Not only did he not hit very many like putts more than 20, I used 30 inches, so 2.5 feet. He left 16% of his putts short from 16 to 20 feet in his 4 best putting years that were all top 10 in the shot link era. So top 10 strokes gained putting people. He left he left 1 in 6 putts short from inside from 16 to 20 feet. Whereas he's telling everyone I had to mark the comebacker because it was going by with too much speed. So you get a college golfer, especially, or a junior golfer that hears Brad Faxon say that, they're going to think, well, I've got to ram it. Any putt that
Be
comes up
aggressive,
short,
yeah.
any putt that comes up short is bad. Like, no, not bad at all. I mean, inconvenient maybe, but we're trying to optimize strokes to hole out. And that's how you do it. You have to be comfortable. And it's different. Inside 10 feet, we probably shouldn't be leaving many short. 16 to 20 feet, most junior golfers should be 35% probably. Because they're going to three putt a ton. Like, just looking back at my junior golf career, if I could have just two putted every time from inside 20 feet, it probably would help me be a better player and then never make anything. But then once we get outside of 25 feet on the PGA Tour, like, I would coach everyone to leave half their putts short from outside 25 feet. And what's crazy about it is your make rate doesn't suffer. You would think that by leaving a ton of putts short, but if you think again about that normal distribution curve, if I've now centered it to where the biggest part of it is basically starting at the hole up to about a foot by, you're not going to have many lip outs. Anything that hits the hole is going to go in because it just doesn't have enough speed to lip out. And so we've made the hole really large for the inner 50% of our distribution curve. And we've made our second putt the optimal length by leaving a whole bunch short. I mean, it's so straightforward and obvious that if
I love it. I love it.
It's
Okay,
painful that I have to keep arguing this, but
so let me try and just coalesce the two different mindsets we're talking about. So we'll call it the Brad Faxon mindset. I'm assuming the reason why he was saying that he had to, when he was putting his best, he had to mark a 3-footer coming back is because he had an aggressive mindset that I'm going to make this putt. So he's going for it. So that's his mindset. And then the other mindset would be, hey, when I'm hitting this putt, my goal is to dribble the putt right in, like last rotation, just make sure. And sometimes it'll be a little short. Sometimes I'll misjudge it'll be past. But either way, I don't want to be that aggressive. I want to always just die the ball in the hole.
I don't
Can I
think they're
distill
mutually
it to that,
exclusive.
or
I don't think
okay,
they have to be mutually exclusive, but if they are, you should punt the aggressive one.
okay,
I do hate the words aggressive and conservative because they've got this emotional context to them.
sure.
And so, I mean, again, I've said that just a billion times. Don't worry, you're not the first person I've said that to. I literally hate the words aggressive, but I want to feel aggressive. What does that even mean?
What
Like,
do you replace it with?
literally,
How do we rephrase that?
when someone says, I want to be aggressive out there, aren't
Yeah.
we just picking targets and hitting our shots at the target? Like, so, I
Okay.
mean, again, so what Tiger Woods says, I play aggressively to my spots, which might be more on the conservative side, but I'm still playing aggressively to my spots. Can't we do that? I will agree with you that it's easier mentally, I think, to say, okay, my target with the 7-iron is 7 yards right of that flag, and I'm really going to attack that spot and feel like I'm aggressive. I
Or
agree
committed
with
or
you that it's hard to think of on 18 feet. I'm going to be really aggressive here, but I better leave a whole bunch short. Like the two mindsets just do feel different to me. That's not the same thing, but I do believe that I just think that you just have to understand the data and the odds of it. I mean, people ask me all the time, do you need to be good at math to do this? I'm like, no, you just need to understand the logic of what we're talking about and then just be able to commit to it. And sometimes people will be like, but I'm just a field player. You still have to pick a target. Like, where are you feeling it to? You have to be feeling it to some ultimate point so you can still be a field player. We just have to pick very specific targets in this game.
okay, Scott, I'm going to put you on the spot here right now. How would you explain the entire mindset, the entire system, everything to like a 5-year-old? Like, how would you coalesce it down and just be like, this is the way they're a little chip and putt and they're doing their thing.
5-year-old good at math.
Not good at math, but really good at golf. How
Okay.
would you explain it?
I would just say, hey, buddy, let's go to the range here and let's hit 20 shots with your 7-iron. And let's just look at how big the shot pattern is. And now let's think of this pin being 5 yards from the left edge of the green. Would taking that shot pattern you just created and aiming right at the flag, does that seem like it would work out well? Or would the left side of your shot pattern be over there in that bunker or water a whole bunch? So we need to pick some targets that take into account not all of your shots. The outliers are still going to be terrible. We can't let outliers destroy the average. And so we can't, 85-ish% of the shots. And that's literally with Zalatoris the week before the Texas Am. I never would have thought to bring this up, but the week before the Texas Am, I had to explain to him what I meant by shot pattern. And so I just wanted to see, we didn't have a track, man. This is 2014. We didn't have access to any launch monitors at all. I just sat there on the range and had him hit literally balls for a couple hours, a couple days in a row with every club through the bag, seeing if he was centering his shot pattern about half left and half right of our target. Because if it had been skewed like 70% one way, I would need to know that to adjust for when I'm choosing his targets out there on the course. And so I would I would take that kid and be like, let's go hit 20 putts now and let's see how your speed control looks. Now, can you understand that from outside 15 feet, we're just trying to the only goal is to tap the next putt in. Like, that's it. The hole will magically get in the way. I mean, the 15-foot make rate on the PGA Tour is only 23%. And I say only like tongue in cheek, like those are the best players in the world. And they don't even, they make 1 and 4 from 15 feet. I mean, especially a 5-year-old, but even a high school kid, the goal is to tap the next putt in. And I promise you, some putts will just magically hit the hole. I mean, they will just do that. And the last thing I'd probably try to explain to the 5-year-old is the idea that your scores are going to drop way more by avoiding bogeys than by making more birdies. The game of golf is entirely about bogey avoidance at every single level, including the PGA Tour. The best players are the ones who make the fewest bogeys.
Hmm.
Did it help the
Okay,
5-year-old at all?
100%. No, 100%, because I think that is, if you were to take like a big cone or a big like circle and you put it around the hole and you're just like trying to get this, make the hole bigger. And if you can ingrain that, the idea that you're not trying to necessarily get the hole, you're just trying to get it within this area to make that second shot easier. I think that would be a very good way to kind of learn the mentality of putting, which is like, again, you're trying to get really, really good at 2-putting. And if you do that, you'll make less 3-putts and you'll make some 1-putt.
And that's why we've got a couple of different speed drills in the Decade app. One of them was created by Maverick McNeely, who led the PGA Tour in strokes gained putting a couple of years ago. Another one's by Max Grazerman, who was second last year. Zalatoris, I know it's weird to use Will as my poster boy for putting, but that guy, no offense, Will, even with that stroke, I don't consider any year that he's been using this broomstick. I hate that idea. I've told him that. I think it's bad. He's just more comfortable. Okay, whatever. But the year in 2022, the year that his rookie year, the year that he won, he putted with the cross, the arm lock claw, and he was dead on 0 strokes gained putting. And that's because, he wasn't very good inside of 10 feet, but he had immaculate speed control. So even though he wasn't very good inside of 10 feet, he still was above tour average in 3-putt avoidance. And he actually was above tour average in make rates on every single 5-foot bucket outside of 10 feet. That's because you're still going to make putts, even if you don't have perfect start line or perfect reads, just by having the ball all around the cup a lot of times, the hole's going to magically get in the way of it sometimes.
Hmm.
Oh,
Okay,
that's I was like I knew I was going to. That's the reason that most of the speed drills in the Decade app, they have you rolling it into like a 10% zone. So
yeah.
from 20 to 30 feet, I'm trying to get you to roll it into like a 2 to 3 foot window. But then when you and you'll get, I mean, this is what's amazing. You'll get really good at that really quick. Like changing your stroke in order to get better start line, like that's just going to take years. But concentrated effort on your speed can get really good really quick. And now if I'm really good in practice at rolling it into a 3 foot zone from 30 feet, and now I get out there on the course and I'm trying to roll it into a 3 foot zone. Well, that's 3 feet short to 3 feet long. That's a 6 foot zone. I've now just doubled the size of what you practice into consistently. And the amount of confidence you get from that, again, circling back to confidence, dude, I'd roll it into a 3 foot zone 80% of the time. Now I'm just trying to roll it into a 6 foot zone. Like I'm never going to miss that. It is why I do believe that the PGA Tour players, you just see them, just the ball is just creeping around the hole the vast majority of the time now on putts outside of 15 feet.
And as a weekend warrior, I can attest to any time that I've attempted that drill where you are creating that 6 foot kind of circumference around the hole. Man, does it ever change your mindset where you're just like it's just weird when all of a sudden you crystallize it down to this tiny little hole. It just everything's just harder. You're a little bit more tense, a little bit more everything, but it's weird. So to what you're saying, 100% true. Okay, I'm curious now, Scott. You've been around some of the best players in the world. You played at a high level yourself. Like, let's take course management out of it for a second. What would you say separates the absolute best players in the world from the rest when it comes to mindset,
Far,
technique? What's that?
hitting it far. I
Hitting it
mean,
far.
it's if there's any one thing that I do think is hilarious that we needed data to illustrate is that you should be hitting it as far as you can. I mean, it really cracks me up because I hit the ball really far, and I've always been by far the longest at any level that I've played at. And so, like when the new modern drivers were coming out in the late '90s, in the 45-inch shaft with the original Great Big Bird at the head, and I was always like, I don't need any more distance. It's like, yeah, you should take every free inch of distance that's sitting out there. So that is definitely the first and foremost thing to. Otherwise, you just have like a governor on you. I mean, again, I like Jordan Spieth, definitely a big fan of his. But when he came out with that, and Morikawa too, when he came, Colin attended my seminar in college. When both those guys came out with the win rates that they had, I'm like, those aren't sustainable. Like they're just getting a hot deck of cards right now. There's no way you can sustain those win rates at your ball speed because you can't gain 6 off the tee. Like it's just that's not going to happen on any given week. But anyone can gain 6 on the green just out of a little bit of luck and variance in putting. And so hitting it far, being really good off the tee is the deal.
What about
The
mindset?
mindset's just kind of a given to me at this point.
Well, how would you describe an elite golfer's mindset? How do they think the game either differently? Again, core strategy aside here, I'm more kind of interested in how do they view themselves? How do they view winning? How do they view, tournament golf that maybe separates them, like the winners from everybody else?
I think it's a very stoic mindset at this point. I think as much as I hate social media and Twitter and Instagram and everything else, I do think that hand in hand with that is podcast. I do think, you can't just, well, I hate Twitter, but I still want podcasts. Well, podcasts wouldn't exist without Twitter because that's where they first started gaining traction with people sharing ideas and everything. And so what you get out of podcast is that you're learning Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, like all these great uh, superstars, they've all got some sort of a meditative breath work, something that they do. And so then they all have these stoic kind of principles that build off of that also. I think that the one thing that I'm a big fan of Sam Harris and his waking up app for meditation. Like that's definitely what I would have any young kid get started on early and often. I think that's by far the biggest the best habit you could possibly build into a kid because it is the tide that lifts all boats. But just really getting in there and understanding, like Sam's got a way that he says in this one essay in the Waking Up app where he's like, bad things are going to happen every day of the week. Like it's an anomaly when your car breaks down or your air conditioner goes out, but something bad's going to happen. Is it really worth wasting all this energy? Basically, he's telling this story about he's complaining about these problems to one of his friends, and his friend goes like, well, none of this seems like that big of a deal. Do you really need to be this mad about it right now? And he was just like, he's like, at first I was mad because he's like, well, I want to be mad, but that's the way golf is. You know, every single day when you go out, there's going to be adversity, that something bad's going to happen every day. And I treated every one of those problems like an anomaly. I can't believe I bogeyed a par five. I can't believe I made a bogey from 120. I can't believe I three putted. Like, just the Tiger five mistakes, which that we track in Decade, um, doubles, bogeys on par fives, three putts, bogey inside 150, and two chips. Of those five things, like, they're going to happen every single day. And so if you know in advance it's going to happen, and then you still decide to freak out and throw your brain away for 30 minutes, that's probably a bad idea. You probably need to be more prepared for the adversity that's coming, which again is why golf is a perfect microcosm of life. I mean, it's adversity's coming, man. There's bad stuff's going to happen. Life is definitely mostly struggle. And so you need to be prepared for it. And you need to also be able to kind of laugh about it a little bit sometimes. Be like, I can't believe this just keeps going wrong, but here we are.
100%. I've said many times that if you want to learn about somebody, go golfing with them, because not only do you get a little glimpse of their inner voice, because oftentimes they're going to externalize and verbalize it, and usually it's not very kind, usually it's not very nice. You're like, "Ooh, you're saying that out loud. What are you actually saying inside?" And
Never really
how they
thought of it
handle
that way, but
adversity.
yeah.
It's true. It's true. Like, it golf brings out a microcosm of life, is very well said, because it is life. It's in a 4.5 hour period. That's it. That's a lifetime of ups and downs and mentalities and focus. I mean, I wrote my son a kid's book that was basically magic flows where your focus goes. And it's to understand that, like, there is a power in the intentional focus of whatever it is you're focusing on, not getting distracted on what you don't want to happen, or birds chirping or ponds or whatever. But there is a magic. Sounds easy, but we all know how hard that actually is to stay focused, even for that 1 or 2 seconds.
Well, and that's what I try to tell people. Like, what I'm saying, like, don't watch me very closely. I'm terrible at this. Like, but I'm also trying to become better at it every single day, and just understanding that it's just people say it's the destination, not the journey, or journey, not the destination, whatever. Like, there isn't even a destination. It's just there's no end to this road, unfortunately, until they finally just put you in the ground. Like, you're just going to constantly be, I've mastered this, I will go do something else. Like, we're all just constantly trying to get better at something, hopefully, otherwise you're probably really miserable in life. And so just understanding that that's just the learning process, is there's going to be ups and downs.
Okay, so Scott, you've got the eyes and the ears of golf parents all over the world right now. What do you want them to know? What advice would you give them?
You know, that's a great question, and it's interesting because I get to see a lot of good and a lot of bad junior golf parents, and I've seen them throughout my years in this game. Tiger's dad was really, really, really hard on him. I've seen Tiger in tears on a golf course when we were playing junior golf together. Like, I've witnessed it, and it worked out. So a lot of parents be like, well, this is how Earl did it. He jangled change and he do those. But I could name 1,000 situations where that parent and child don't even talk anymore. And I could name kids that won the U.S. Junior in that exact same situation where the child and parent don't even talk anymore because they're so hard. Not Zalatoris. Some people take that the wrong way, but other people that I know. You just gotta love the kid, and surround them with the people that you want them to teach them the game. And I would even say this: if you are a good player yourself, the message is not going to be heard from the parent. My joke that I've got also is I've traveled the world for the last 10 years telling people what bad decisions teenagers make. And now that I've got a 15-year-old daughter, I'm like, oh shoot, the problem is worse than I thought. I had no idea
You
some of the
need your
stuff.
second world tour now.
Oh my God. I'm like, oh, wow, I really need to emphasize. So you're going to watch your kid do dumb stuff. Just coach him up. After the round, be like, you did this again. Like, hey, what went through your head? Was there anything in real time you could have done differently? Hey, it was just a bad golf from 135. Put it in the front bunker. It plugged. I hacked it out. Was pissed off on the 18-footer. Ran it 5 feet past. Missed it coming back. Like, that's what happened. Okay, you want to learn from these mistakes and pour that knowledge forward. But if you get mad at a kid, again, don't watch me too closely on this because my 15-year-old wants to strangle me most of the time I'm awake. If you go into anything with any sort of an argumentative tone, man, it's just not going to go well, and they're not going to take that information well from a parent. And so surround them with the people that you want, and then just love the kid. Honestly, I feel like that's maybe a little too cheesy, but that really is. That
what
really is
more
the
can we do?
answer.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
support and unconditional love. Like what more does a kid need? Exposure to different things that they can potentially find a love or a passion for, and then support them as best we can.
mhm.
Um, Speaking of which, I mean, every single parent is looking to give their kid the edge, is looking to, for those parents out there that have kids that are playing high level junior golf, what do they need to know about the Decade app? Like, how do they find it? How do they find you? Like, get more information? I mean, you're prevalent everywhere, but
Decade.golf at this point, just on any web browser. Obviously, the Decade app is available on your phone. It really is at this point a diary of all the dumb stuff I used to do and all the dumb stuff I've witnessed while helping players along the way. And I've really called it decade, just trying to imply we're going to take decades off your learning curve. Zalatoris, after the Texas Ham in 2014, sent me a text that said, I'll never be able to repay you. You've given me 25 years of experience in 5 days. And I kind of like, I appreciate that. And the more I thought about it over the next year, I was like, it really was an incredible amount of information to throw into a kid essentially overnight. But that kid literally went on an overnight, growth spurt. If he got 3 shots better, over 5 days, just by understanding, here's what we're doing, here's what we're doing. It was funny because at the U.S. Junior, one of the interviews, the guy asked him, "Junior caddies sure do seem to talk a lot out there," and he's like, "Yeah, because he's teaching me and we're learning and this is what we're doing." Whereas everyone else is just like nervous and whatever. Like we're just focused on learning out here. It's all we're trying to do is learn, and you know, thank goodness it worked out.
I'm curious, what's your take on AimPoint? Do you think that that is the
I think it's
future? Do
great.
you?
Yeah, I,
Yeah.
I personally, I like AimPoint. I personally prefer. There's something called Tour Read by a guy named Ralph Bauer. It's If you think about it, AimPoint is just a math problem. We're just using our arm and calibration to solve the math problem. Ralph's got a system where he teaches you take, and I don't want to give his stuff away too much, but it's you take however many paces times two. So a 9 foot putt is 3 paces times two is six, minus one is five. I know that makes no sense to anyone, but on a 10 stimp, 1% slope, that putt breaks 5 inches from the center of the cup. And it's pretty darn accurate. And I just think that it's
Interesting.
easier doing that than having to calibrate your hand and your fingers, just all that stuff. If you think about it, if you and I, even if I had a really fat finger and you had really skinny fingers, we should be doing the same thing. You would just be holding yours closer for one, two skinny fingers than I would be holding further. There should just be a mathematical answer to that, and that's what it is. So I think it's great. The one thing that I never understood until actually talking with Ralph about this, like he was on me for a couple of years. I want to teach you this. I want to teach you this. And I was just like, I don't care. I'm not playing much golf. Finally started playing a little bit more golf myself and reading greens terribly. And so he finally taught it to me. And I was just like, dude, I just can't feel anything. He's like, fine, you need to go figure out what's the least amount of slope you can feel, which for me is 1.1%. Like I bought the little digital level and like, okay, this is definitely going that way. And very consistently, it was right in that 0.9 to 1.1 range. And then for me to be able to see it, it's about 0.5. That's getting worse now as I'm now 52. And so he's like, if you can't see it and you can't feel it, you just need to play it straight and cross your fingers. Like that literally is one of the hardest putts. Once you get to 8 feet, you want to favor a side. But if it is actually straight and you favor a side from 8 feet, it's going to break away from you. And then you're going to think, imagine a pool table set at 45 degrees. If I had a dead straight putt, but I played it right lip, it would break right. If I had it in the dead straight spot, and you'd be like, I knew it was going to go left, or I knew it was going to go right. I should have played left. No, if you'd played it left side, it would have gone left. So really understanding that sometimes a putt is straight and it's really hard to trust and read, but that doesn't mean you just randomly pick a side. So AimPoint, Tour Read, they're all great. Decade, it's the same thing. We're just trying to they're just taking years off your learning curve of having to have the experience of reading a billion putts if you ever even get good at it. The course that again, I'm a terrible green reader. The course that I grew up has really flat bent grass greens here in Dallas. Oh, really? You're not good at reading greens? Yeah, because every putt was right or left lip and there was no grain and just bang it at the hole. And I just never got any experience reading anything with undulation. Literally until I got to college. And at that point, I'm so far behind the learning curve, you're just never going to catch up unless you just learn a system to do it. Systems solve everything. Systems remove emotion. We don't want to be making emotional decisions out there, and systems just help you follow a process over and over and over again. It's the difference between baking and cooking. Baking, you just follow an exact recipe. If you gave me a good baking recipe, I could probably make a cake just as good as whoever's making it. Not really. But cooking, when you just do a dash of this and a pinch of that, like, good luck replicating that. That's what we're trying to do, is get golf is just baking now.
I'm grateful that you asked that question, because that leads me, or you said the baking versus cooking analogy, because that's my last question. Where do you think creativity is in the future of the game? As AI, as computer, as data, flight monitors, as all of this keeps getting more and more into our kids and into the golfing game, where's there room for that creativity, that intuition, or is there any?
I don't think there is any. I mean, and that probably makes some people mad. That's fine. I mean, there is part of me that does feel, I mean, honestly, like, there's a little bit of me. I don't know that I've got a perfect background of being pretty darn good at math. I'm really good at logic. I'm pretty good at sales for my electricity company, and I'm really good at golf. This little combination of, I'm not the best at anything, but I'm really good at like 4-ish things that combine together. I wish I hadn't created this, but I knew that I did, to see what someone else would have created. Because I've tried to punch holes in it. I've tried to, how else do I need to make it better? And I know for a fact there's been, over the last 10 years, a bunch of people try to create something better. There's a reason there's not a competing product out there. Like, it's pretty hard to make it much better than it is. So I just think creativity, unfortunately, I think it's kind of dead. I mean, if there's a correct answer to the problem, why do I want to try to find some creative artsy answer? Again, you can still feel the shot or do whatever you want to it, but if it's better to just hit a cut on every single shot, or draw, whatever it is for you, why do I want all of a sudden, like, oh, the pin's on the back left, I want to feed this little draw back there? Well, probably just hitting the green in that scenario and 2-putting it is probably a really good result. Why do we want to try to be creative and outthink this thing just because we have some memory of the game of yesteryear? Like, it's just different. I mean, there's probably a million things like that. I mean, especially in sports, where I think that looking at the NBA, the scatter plots of shots, it's like all around the 3-point line and then all in the paint. If you're shooting it from like 3 feet inside the 3-point line, you're not going to have a job very long, because they're going to get really mad at you for just wasting shots. And so where's the art in that? Like, it's either launch it or tap it, or lay it up. Everything else in between is a bad idea.
I'll tell you this conversation has been an art form. I've enjoyed it. This has been great. I know I'm going to listen back to this and come up with 100 other questions to ask you, but Scott, man, I appreciate your time. This was awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Any last parting words? Anything else that you want to say that we haven't touched right now?
No, honestly, I would tell everybody that's listening to subscribe to you. Like, yep, I thought you did a really good job. Like, that was a very well done interview. Honestly, like, I would tell everybody, there's going to be some more good stuff coming from this guy. That was good. I'm battling some back pain right now, and so I feel like I'm kind of out of it. Like, I don't feel like I did the best job there, but I felt like you did a really good job of keeping it on track.
He's on happy pills right now. He's awesome. No,
I'm on a muscle relaxer, that's for sure, but that's not my problem. No, really, honestly, I would just tell people that are listening, and I've never said that before on a single podcast I've ever been on, is just subscribe to this guy. You're going to do a lot of good stuff.
Oh, I appreciate you, man. Kindness. Thank you so much.
Got it.
Hey, golf parents, before you go, I just want to say thank you for being here. If you found value in this episode, please follow the podcast, leave a short review, or share it with another golf parent who would love it. Every single one helps us grow this movement to raise future champions together. Thank you. See you next week.